They say that if you want to succeed in life, you must choose your parents wisely. So you seem to have done that because you mentioned that your father was very musically talented and your mother too, I believe, was a very good Veena exponent. So temptation is to remark that naturally, therefore, you were a talented child. And yet it isn't a commonplace phenomenon after all. We see lots of musically talented parents who don't necessarily produce equally talented children, let alone prodigies. Were any of your other sisters or brothers equally talented?
No, there are two things. You see, one thing, sometimes if father and mother are musicians, the child may lose the opportunity. Sometimes it coincides that they sacrifice everything for their child and then see that the child comes up in the art. So in that way, I think I was fortunate that my father has sacrificed all his life in so many ways for my sake. So in that way, God has given me a father who was my guru and who was my everything, my mother too. About my mother, if I have to say that she was an extraordinary lady and something peculiar about her. You want me to tell about that?
Yes, please.
My mother was a great Veena player and my father married her very late because in those days, nobody used to give the child to a musician. In those days, music and dance considered as not very good for family life. So my maternal grandfather, Prayaga Rangadas, who is a very great composer and musician, and I tell you his compositions are really excellent. He composed a very few songs, but those songs are first of its kind, not only in the style, the way how he composed, but the music is something very great. I can sing for you a few lines of his songs later on. And so his daughter, his youngest daughter, was given to my father. My mother used to play Veena. In fact, she was the first lady in those days to come out from the house and given an opportunity to play on the platform for the audience. The first kacheri, probably a lady artist in those days in Andhra Pradesh. I don't know about other states in those days. She gave a performance and her performance was appeared in papers and it was appreciated. And actually, my mother, when she was carrying me, I understand she used to practice on Veena for nearly 6 to 8 hours a day. When doctors advised her, she should not take so much strain. Then she told the doctor and said, "Don't disturb me. I am not practicing Veena. I am teaching music to my son." That's how she replied. And she was taken for delivery to one of her elder sister's place, Shankaraguptam, a place in East Godavari district. It is a small village in between sea and the backwaters. There were only about 6 to 8 houses and there I was born. My mother was quite all right after delivery, easy delivery, normal delivery, and she was quite all right. But still, on the 12th day of my birth, she called my father who was in Vijayawada. He settled down in Vijayawada by that time. So in those days to reach that place, it took 3 days. It's a very difficult to travel to go to that place. One has to change trains in 3 places. In Narsapur, up to Narsapur from Vijayawada, one has to go by train, change trains in 3 places. And in Narsapur was a small town. In that, from that he has to go to Godavari. Godavari river is there. They have to cross by a boat that river and then take a bus and travel about 30 kilometers. And from there one has to travel by bullock cart. And afterwards 1 kilometer one has to walk in the sands. And then again backwaters one has to cross by boat and reach that place. So he reached that place on the 14th day of my birth. That day my mother seems to have told my father that, you see, don't think otherwise, I am going to tell you a news. What is that? See, the purpose of my life is to give a child who will become very great and who will keep up the name and fame of our family for 7 generations. Therefore, the purpose is over. I want to take leave from you. I am leaving this world. If I am alive, this boy will not come up. Therefore, give me permission. And if you can remain bachelor, remain bachelor. If you want to marry, you marry. I have no objection. But in that case, you give this child to my eldest sister. Her eldest sister became widow at the age of 9. In those days, you know what is the life of a widow. So she was alone. So you take her and let her bring up this child. Then my father said something wrong with the health and with the mind. She was talking some nonsense. And he just took it lightly. And 15th day, she died. Without any reason, she died. So I have never seen my mother. Then my father took a vow that he would not play flute or veena. And he also never allowed me to play flute. In fact, I am very fond of playing flute, but I also promised him I will not play flute. But veena, I like it, but I can only demonstrate, I can only teach it only to them. I never venture to play it as a performing thing. It so happened that there was nothing else in me except music since that. And from that time onwards, my father remained like that. And he concentrated his full life, for my music. And that was the reason probably I was nothing else except whenever I hear music. And my father sometimes warned me that your mind is like blotting paper. You must hear only good music. If you hear something else, you will pick it up. Be careful. So that's how it happened.
It's a very, very interesting story because she seems to have been a very wise lady, your mother. And she seems to have been very much ahead of her times about this, she said she's playing to her son. Because nowadays it's been proved even by scientific research that a child in the womb can pick up sounds from outside and can
I'm also
start
experimenting on that basis.
We will be talking about that later.
Yeah, why I'm telling all this because therefore I have no brothers, I have no sisters.
So this is like the story of Bhakta Prahlad, who learnt in his mother's womb.
But luckily, the only change is I have a good father.